So it's called not bar not. The tam goes into the pot, and then it comes back out when it is used for the noodles. Okay, and the Shulchan Aruch holds that you could take those noodles and mix it with meat, with dairy, because the taste is so diluted. The Ashkenazic tradition is that it's not barnat, and it still has some taste to it, and therefore the minhag is not to mix it with dairy. Yomo eino ben yomo. What does that mean? If it was a pot that was used fresh when you cooked the noodles, so that's when the Ashkenazim are machmir not to mix those noodles, because you had at 5 o'clock you cooked the meat, cleaned it out. 5:30 you cooked the noodles. That's called not barnat, and it's ben yomo, meaning it's fresh taste in that in the pot, and that fresh taste of the meat gets into the noodles, and therefore we do not mix it with dairy. Eino ben yomo, if the pot was not used for 24 hours, so then we say that the taste that was in there, that sat in the pot for 24 hours, is considered to be stale, and it doesn't affect the noodles, and therefore those noodles you could take and mix it with dairy. Okay? Ashkenazim could take that and mix it. We have to just verify when you take out the Tupperware from the fridge. We have to just verify: was that pot that cooked the noodles used within the previous 24 hours before the noodles were cooked? Was it used for meat or not? And if you don't remember, so then we have a rule called stam kli eino ben yoma. We assume that a kli that was used in a typical kitchen for noodles, that it was not just used for meat beforehand, if you're not sure. We don't assume the typical kli is always being used in the house for meat, or typical dairy kli is always used for dairy. And therefore you could go with that suffix that you're not sure. So if you find a Tupperware of noodles, potatoes, whatever it may be, and there's no meat in the noodles or the potatoes, it was in a meat pot or in the dairy pot, and now you don't know the status, you just don't remember what the pot, whether the pot was just used for meat before or not, you could assume that that's pariv and mix it with the opposite kind. Okay? Yeah.
What if you used it for meat, let's say on Sunday afternoon, and then Monday morning you used it for pariv? Can you use it on Monday?
Yeah, you could. You're right. It's a good question. Good question. It's a good question. So it wasn't used for that meat. So the meat taste is what becomes stale. That's because it's sat around for 24 hours. Yes, that's a good point. Good point. Okay. Yeah.
By accident, someone did mix them.
Very good. Very good. Perfect. So if we look at Ashkenazim, Sfardim, so Sfardim can always take the noodles from the fridge and with no concern at all mix it with whatever they want. Because even if it was a fresh pot that at 5 o'clock was used for meat and 5:30 used to make the noodles, doesn't matter. The Sfardim hold that the taste is so diluted you can now mix it. Ashkenazim, we have to know and try to ascertain whether those potatoes, noodles, etc., what they were used for, when the pot was used. Okay? L'chatchila and b'diavad. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you.
So l'chatchila, can I cook? And the question is for Sfardim and Ashkenazim. Can a Sephardi cook in a fresh meat pot, just used for meat, cleaned it out, cooked noodles, in order to mix it with dairy? Meaning you have a really big meat pot, and you want to make a lot of noodles, a lot of kids are coming over. So you can make a big pot of noodles. And in order to mix it with dairy. So and Ashkenazim, once you have an Eino ben Yom pot that was used for 24 hours, can we lechatchila cook in that pot to mix it with dairy? It's a question of Sfardim and Ashkenazim. Whatever leniency the Sfardim have, whatever leniency we have, once the noodles were cooked, for the Sfardim, anytime noodles were cooked, you can mix it. For Ashkenazim, only if the pot waited 24 hours, right? Yeah, but can you do that at the onset? It was a very practical question. Sometimes you have some big pots, and you want to go ahead and have to use that pot to make this food, but you're going to mix it with the other one. And most poskim say that lechatchila, it's best not to. You shouldn't. In other words, the Sephardi should not go ahead and cook in order to mix it with the other one. And the Ashkenazi, even if you've waited 24 hours, should not go ahead lechatchila and mix it. and cook in order to mix it. But in any case that anything was mixed, everyone is going to be lenient. Yeah.
Well, let's say you're Ashkenazi, use a ben yoma pot. Not tequila, but you then take the noodles from the pot and cheese and stuff. You bake it in some other kli.
Right.
Does that make?
It's fine. So, but the Evan, once you did it, once you mixed it, it's.
It doesn't strafe up the.
No, it's not strafe. It's fine. It's fine. The chatchila we try to be machmir, not cook it with that in mind, with that intention, and we want to try to keep things separate, as we're going to learn. So let me read the Shulchan Aruch so you can hear the language directly. This is in Yoredeya, and he has his language. Okay, he says the following. It's in all these halachas are in Sadi Hay, chapter 95 in the Shulchan Aruch, and he says. Beitzim dagim ubeitzim shentbashlu b'kedei rashal basar. Fish, eggs that were cooked in a fleishik pot. So can I mix that with cheese? So the Shulchan Aruch says dagim shentbashlu or shentbashlu b'kedei rashal basar. If it was cooked in a meat pot, rechutza yafa, obviously cleaned well. Shenshum shuman davukba. Which now it's easy. They didn't have running water back in the day. It really was not a simple thing to do. Muta lochlan b'kuta. You can mix it. You can mix it with kuta with some dairy food. Tave no same time bar no same time. It's not bar not, and it's diluted not. They could do that. The im lo ha'ita rechitziya, and if it's not rechitziya washed well. Im yesh b'masha big dairy yotem mecha b'shishim b'dagim asur lochlan b'kuta. So then. If you have actual meat and it's more than 160, so it's not just diluted, it's not baktel b'shishim, then you have a problem. Fine. Okay? And he says that what if the egg, it's a hard-boiled egg, has a shell? Do we say that Beitzah debasha b'mayim b'kedera cholevet mutlatit ota b'tocha tarnagolet afilu lechatchila. So once again, beitza cooked in a pot of pariv with water, then it's fine, like he just said. But if it was cooked with meat, even if it's klipa, its shell, we assume that the meat permeates through the shell. So that's the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, that's the Shulchan Aruch. And then he says, Ve'ramah ve'yesh machmirim b'tzliv b'shul asur no sein tam bar no sein tam, and ha'minag la'asur l'chatchila. The minag of Ashkenazim is not to do this. Okay, and then he says u'b'di'eved mutar. You didn't know. You didn't know those noodles were cooked in this pot that 5 minutes ago was cooked with meat. You didn't know, and you mixed it. So it's fine b'di'eved. In other words, the bottom line is we do rely on the opinion that not by not really is a diluted taste. It's just lachatchila at the outset we try to be mach. We have a double chol im chalav habasar tzmo, and we're only machmir to mix the noodles with the dairy. Aval litnim b'klisha mutar. But can I put it on a dairy plate? That's fine, which is the next point. Cooking in the kli versus placing in the kli. So can I go ahead and take those noodles out and put them on a dairy kli? The answer is yes. You're just mixing with cheese. We have to differentiate between whether it was Eino ben Yomo or ben Yomo. Okay? And that's halacha. Okay? So is that clear? Yes.
If you bake a paraf cake in a meat oven.
That's the $1 million question. That is the big question. We're going to really have to have a separate show on the oven, and it's a bit of a... It's not so simple as we would think, okay? We're going to go through the different opinions. Many would hold that your case is totally fine. Some would say you got to check in the oven, the cleanliness, and it's fun. It's a fun topic. Some bring in, your question is a good one, and some take it into this topic, that if the oven was not used for meat in 24 hours, so the oven is Eino ben Yomo, and if you tell me there's stuff dripping down, so then it's the case of an unclean kli. Right? Kli is a vessel. It's an unclean vessel, so then they would just apply this to the oven. And some do that. And they say the following. But we're going to have a separate tray in the oven, because the oven's tricky. But just for now, so I don't want you to hold off at that coffee and cake. It sounds good. So for now, the rules sound pretty similar. Meaning, if I didn't use my oven for 24 hours, so anything absorbed in the walls is eino ben yomo, okay, and therefore the taste is not relevant. We call it it's called nosein tam livgam, okay, and therefore. I don't have to worry about the taste that came out in the cake. I'm not making the cake in order to. I'm making the par of cake to have a Shabbos, but I know I'm going to have some leftover, whatever. So I want to use the leftover, whatever it may be. And the only additional factor is the Shulchan Aruch said, but I have to make sure my kli is clean. So it depends.
It doesn't actually touch it anyway.
Yes. What?
When it's in the oven,
Good.
it's in its own.
Excellent. So there you have that additional leniency. So the only thing you may have to say is like anything on the roof, like mamish, like can be dripping down, which is probably not too realistic. Depends on how bad the oven is. So the simple pshat based on what we learned so far is that you bake the cake for Shabbos, and you're planning on having it after the meal. So you baked it in a meat oven, and you're planning on having it after the meal, the meat meal, and you have some leftover. Based on the rules that we saw so far, it would seem that what? If it was an eino ben yomo oven, you didn't cook the meat right before. If you cooked the meat right before, and the oven fills up with steam, so that is an eino ben yomo. That's a ben yomo oven. So that might be more stringent. There are those that might say, like Dovi said, wait a second, this oven is not the same as a kli. The kli you cooked right in directly. The oven is different. So maybe if it's steamed up, you could say it's one big kli. That's where things get a little bit tricky. And we're going to see about that. It's surprisingly tricky, that topic. We're going to show and have a shiur on that one. Okay? So that's the Shulchan Aruch. Okay? And that's the basics of the power of food that we have that's cooked in the pots and the pans. That's the basics. Okay? So I just added on to this the following. Let's see. F, application to Pesach and Kinyo. So, cooking Kinyo in my Pesach kalim. Okay. So, I'm going to cook for my son who's sick in the home, or I'm going to cook for the baby. The baby's allowed to have Kinyo, or chol, anyone who's a chola, and someone who's weak and needs it, etc. So, what do we say in such a case? Should I have separate kalim for the kitniyot use? Do you hear the question? So he says, the Piskei Teshuvot says the following, because the Mishnah Berurah says someone who's sick is allowed to have kitniyot. V'nogim liyached kalim. So he quotes the Maharam Shik, that those who need kinyot, the minhag is to have kalim. So the yached kalim yuchadim shebehem mevashim et hakinyot l'tinokot u'lecholim. So he says the minhag is to go ahead, the Maharam Shik, that you can have kalim to separate kalim you should have for the kitniyot. Kimidina, even though really im avar kaf dalet sha'ot. Now that sounds great. That's based on what we just learned. Really, the bottom line is if it's 24 hours since you've used, the kitniyot. So you go ahead and you're cooking the corn. The child, that's what he needs, that's what he eats. He's finicky, that's his food. Okay? So you cook for corn. Okay? And let's say you use a pace of the kfa, and you wait 24 hours. So the Piskei Teshuvot says, Mutter af lachatchila l'vashel behem achlei Pesach. Okay, v'af b'toch me'elei. He says, really, let's be honest, kinyot is not chametz. And certainly, if you wait 24 hours after you cook the kinyot, then what are we saying? There's the tam is not barnat, and it's eino ben yomo. It have those two things. It's diluted tam, so the corn taste getting into your potatoes. That is the standard Pesach food. So the corn that you cooked on Monday. So that taste that gets into the pot which now using for Monday potatoes. So that's not barnat, is diluted. And it's Eino ben Yomo. Okay, so the Ramah says that kind of taste, basar b'chalav, you can even mix. So he says, Migradin, you could. V'af mutar, v'af b'toch me'leid, and b'di'evet b'shlu ma'achlei pesach lo neser hatavshil. Okay? So he says, and certainly if you did it even within the 24 hours, it's hard to say it's going to osir it, but the meaning many people do have is to have separate kalim. That if you know you're going to be cooking on Pesach, Kinyo, so it might not be a bad minhag. You can certainly see things getting a little bit confusing over there. So fine. So that's that point. And then I just finished the minhag. Yes?
On that point, it would come up quite often if the Saudi neighbors invite you over for a meal.
That's a good one. That is a good question. So as good hosts, they should certainly not be. They certainly shouldn't be serving you kinyan, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying they're serving
right,
you.
that's for sure. Now the question is, in terms of the kalim, that they cooked on, right? Do you have to worry about that?
This is a question I asked Rabbi once with some Saudi neighbors, and Rabbi so.
Good. And if I'm not mistaken, he was making, no?
He was making, and I said we have to worry about 24 hours, not 24 hours, and he said no, you can eat it.
Good. Okay. So I thought that the Rav Melamed had that case. I thought Rav Melamed had the case, but I can't find it right now. But it's a great question. So the Sephardi neighbor invites you over. So he goes ahead and what? He cooked rice in the middle of the day. And then he goes ahead, cleans it out, and he cooks potatoes. Okay? For his Ashkenazic guests. So let's just put that together. You have not barnat of the rice, so it's diluted taste, okay, of the rice that gets into the potatoes, okay? So it's not open in the Shulchan Aruch, well, there's Shulchan Aruch, but the Ramah, the Ashkenazic, earlier poskim to ask such a thing. And to begin with, the kinyot is a big chumrah. That's why Rav Giga and others would say that, yes, we don't eat kinyot. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. We're going to finish off this section in a moment with that. Yes, we don't eat kinyot. That's true. But the minhag Rav Giga is saying is that we don't ask or prohibit not barnat kinyot that someone else cooked for you. Ad kadei kan, we don't go. We don't eat the kinyot themselves, but we don't go that far. Okay. I thought he might have mentioned so, but I have to check it out. But either way, that's Rav Gigi, certainly a fine posek to rely on. Okay, so that brings together the not by not concept, just brings it down to Pesach. Okay, and just finishing off this section, the minhag of kitniot and minhagim in general. Okay, just sometimes people go ahead and kitniot, what do we need it for? And we don't mix these things up. First, I don't think it's that pashut, and I think even with all the modern technology and everything, I don't think it's so simple that, you can have factories where these things really could be processed together, and sometimes the wheat and the rice could be mixed up. But even if it doesn't apply anymore, the reasons, even if it's true, first of all, the reason anything can get mixed up, or sometimes people could get mixed up. Even if the reasons don't apply, okay, you always need the poskim to guide us and say when a minhag possibly is dependent on the reason, and when the minhag is fixed. And you don't tamper with it. The poskim have a feel for it. Once in a while they can argue over this point. And we're going to see in the next section an interesting point where the reason and application could be combined. But normally you have a minhag, we keep the minhag. And that's what keeps halacha going. I always say that's what keeps halacha going, is our precision, and we're not flippant in any way. Where we say, well, yeah, the reason doesn't apply, we could just drop it. You start dropping things when you feel they don't apply, the halacha is done. Halacha is done. And I always use the example of 100 years ago, where Solomon Schechter, okay, from the conservative movement in America, he was a scholarly fellow. In the Geniza manuscripts, he was one of the world masters, and he was an interesting fellow. He didn't just throw halacha out the door. He didn't. But just a few things here and there. The most famous line was Minhag America, relating to what? Anyone know? Mechitza in the shul. Minhag America, we don't have mechitza in the shul. It was a European minhag, but the minhag is not here. And he didn't just throw halachas out like that. He didn't just say, you can make a fire on Shabbos. He didn't do that a few decades later. Max Dumont and others, or combustion in a car. You turn a car on, it's not really work. And on Shabbos, you can't make a fire because it's work, but this is not work. Like, that's it, and things just slipped. So a minhag of Kinyot, I know Rav, I think Bar Chaim, very creative and independent thinker here in Israel. If I'm not mistaken, anyone know directly that he says that everyone should be following the Sephardic tradition? Anyone know that firsthand?
Almost positive.
That he does hold that, right? So fine, someone holds. He's a Talmud Chacham. He's a wonderful man, and if he learns the sugya that way, and he understands that based on the Sephardim were here first, and everyone should have just, accepted that approach. I haven't gone through his shiur, and he's your posek, but he really has to be your posek. So fine, but in general, most poskim, as far as I know, say that the minhag Ashkenaz is to abstain from kinyot, and that's it. There might be certain leniencies that you don't have to go. Every oil is and this oil and that. So fine, canola oil. There are those who are more lenient. I'm more lenient with it than not. But the idea that we're just going to throw at the minhag kinyot is not a simple thing. And the minhagim, even if you don't think it always applies, and this rabbinic rule doesn't always apply in this case or that case, that is what keeps the system going. Okay, fine. So moving on. Changing kalim from meat to dairy and dairy to meat. That's an interesting one. And I get this question. Not that rare that I get this question, where you want to go ahead and kasher. And a fun part of the question is, even though I'm avoiding the oven topic for now, is wait a second. I only have one oven, and what do I want to do with the oven? Cook my meat in it, and Baruch Hashem, I have self-clean. So what will I do? I'll self-clean, I'll make my dairy. And then I'll self-clean it, I'll make my meat. Or maybe I'll be lenient, I won't do self-clean, that's 900 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a pretty intense process. I don't know if you want to do that every day. Maybe once in a while. You have to check out the instructions from the manufacturer. How often is that to be done? But maybe I'll be lenient and I'll kasher my oven like I do for Pesach. And I don't have a self-cleaning oven. I'll do what? The highest setting. So either way, however I'm going to kasher on Pesach, the highest setting, self-cleaning, maybe I'm going to do that with my oven all throughout the year. Meat, dairy, meat. So this is an important minhag to understand. The point halacha or minhag, we'll have to see where it comes from. Okay? So here's what it is. So minhag is not to switch. Okay? The Ashkenazic minhag is not to go ahead and take a kli and then, let me kasher it for dairy. And I'll take the dairy, I'll kasher it for meat. And go back and forth. Now, it's not in the Shulchan Aruch. It's not in the Gemara. It's not the Rambam. So this developed somewhere over the centuries. It developed. It's already written from hundreds of years ago. And the reason was, what was the reason? The reason was what? Because what was the fear? That you're going ahead, you're switching meat to dairy to meat? It can be confusing. It's not so hard to see that. So the Magen Avraham, this is on Taf Kuftet Hilchot Yom Tif. He writes, Mashma mutta b'chol lahagio kli. On Yom Tif, in Hilchos Yom Tif, there was a discussion. Devar mashum b'Yom Tif lahachal not sleep. And kama dinim pratim lehchot Yom Tif. There's a siman in Hilchot Yom Tif Taf Kuftet. Talking about fixing a kalim to roast things on Yontif, which of course you could do. You can make a barbecue on Yontif. Only problem with the barbecue, the shayla is turning on the barbecue, taking a match from a lit candle in the oven in the kitchen is fine. The only question with the barbecue is, can you turn it off afterwards? Is it gram keyboy that I'm really not putting water on the fire? I'm just stopping the gas, and then the fire goes off. It's a nice shayla. It's a nice question, but it's a tricky one, and many say, no, that you cannot do. So far, but in this siman, it talks about preparing kalim on Yom Tif, preparing the pots or the spit. What's it called? I put the shish kebab on. So preparing that. So there, the Magen Avraham says, because she's trying to give you a reference, why is it in Hilchos Yantif, the idea of kashering kalim back and forth. Of course, it's in the Shulchan Aruch that he talks about, where he talks about preparing kalim on Yantif and what you are and what you're not allowed to do. Mutar labein b'yantif kli barzel. You could do libon, burn a kli up, okay, that you use for cheese, and then you will go ahead and take this kli and use it for meat. Shulchan Aruch openly talks about in Hilchot Yantif, going from dairy, koshering it to meat. On Yantif. Okay. V'hu she'eshet laben yenu oto ala machal miyad im hu balua minivela ki yotze asal lavno afila fopo davar heter. Okay. V'hodin da asal lahagil kli b'yantif. And you cannot do hagala. Because once you could cook on Yantif, maybe you could heat up water. I'll do hagala, kasher my kli on Yantif. So he says, no, that we don't do. So the whole siman, the chapter is talking about what you could do with kalim, preparing them and kashering them. So the Magen Avraham says, "Mikan mash mutar b'chol, lagil kli chalav lachol bo basar." Well, this is a yantif discussion, but there's no concern about meat, dairy meat. The only concern here is, can I do this on yantif? I can't do this on yantif. Is it also on yantif? Not right on yantif? That's the only concern. And the Magen Avraham, what does he say? It seems like it's fine. Va'olam nogan isser, and we have an isser. We don't do it. Okay? Sheshama yafetam leminach shem yasakin laolam lo yelo rakli echad. You could have one kli v'galenu kol pam shinstamish bo. Okay? V'zeh asa duma asi lemiteka de isa b'chulin. And he says, you might end up getting mixed up. You're doing hagala, this is meat today, it's dairy tomorrow, it could get confusing. But what about the Shulchan Aruch? So no, that's libon. Okay, libon is what? When you do libon, that just destroys everything in the kli, and they weren't stringent about libon, about the hot flame when you kash it that way, as opposed to boiling water. That's a lower level of kashering. And he says, maybe by Liban where you don't have the stringency. So this is the Magen Avraham, but the Shulchan Aruch doesn't have it. But the Magen Avraham does have it. So is the minhag Ashkenaz this way? And the answer is yes. We don't do it. Okay? We don't do it. We don't kasher things back and forth. Okay? And it comes out with some very interesting. Yeah.
We do.
What?
We do.
From meat to dairy?
If you want to change something, you can only do it Erev Pesach when you're doing and stuff like that for Pesach.
Oh, very good. Very good. So look on the sheet. Excellent. So reason for the minhag, that's B, 2B. Then 2C. Sfardim are leaning in this matter. So in Yabia Omer is Rav Avadia Yosef. He has a major farm. Yabia Omer was early on. Okay, that's his very extensive tshuvot. Goes on for pages and pages and pages. Chazon of Adyaz also, he has those farm that he put out on Pesach and other halachot as well. And then Yechavedah is his other farm, his shorter Shelot Tshuvot, which originally he answered on the radio show many decades ago. They just throw out questions to him, and then he would just like hundreds of sources in each answer, and then they just put it down in Yechavedat. Okay, it's just hard to imagine. There was so much knowledge in that one head of his. It's just incredible. So in Yabia Omer, he mentions this is in. Let's see, where is it? Your Deya Gimel 4, and over there he mentions that he quotes the Ashkenazim Gedolim who are stringent in this matter, and he writes that the Sfardim are not. He writes, Ein lahatib azel elu shenagu biyuchud ba'atzot Ashkenazi. Ashkenazim are stringent. Ulididan mikol makom lididan for us the Sfardim miha yesh lahakel. There's room to be lenient because we did not really accept this tradition. Okay, which I said in the previous Shiurim, Rav Avadia, it's not like, I never go by Pesach Rav Avadia. When there's a difference between Ashkenaz and Sephardi, he always tells you. He always tells you. And he almost always is respectful to the Ashkenazim minhag. There's no Ashkenazim home. Once in a while, like I said, by Sheitels, forget it. He's just no tolerance for that. Woman has to cover her hair with a tichel, that, not a Sheitel. But otherwise, 99% of the time, minhag Ashkenaz, he respects the minhag Ashkenaz, and the minhag Sfard, he says this is our minhag. Okay, so Sfardim don't have it. Then you have case of Shas Adchak, a pressing situation. So a pressing situation where you don't have a lot of money, this is the only kli that you have, and 150 people are coming over, his stores are closed, you just can't. You need to make this for your dairy meal tonight. And the only way you're going to be able to do it is with this one pot that you have that fits enough for all the people, otherwise it's going to be a big balagan. So yes, we have the minhag, Ashkenazic minhag, but poskim are leaning in that case. They said, yeah, you're not just trashing the minhag, it's shas hadchak, it's a pressing situation. So rely on the Me'ikar Adin. And the Me'ikar Adin, the straight halacha is that you can go back and forth. So we're not going to be machmir in such a case. Okay? Clear? Moving on. Yes?
Being that there's no base thing, why would it be wrong for a person to say, that's a minhag, but there's no base thing that accepted this. Why would it be wrong?
Oh, so now you get into a question, how does a minhag start? Do you need a base thing to start? Do you need a takana from the Gemara? A takana from the Gemara in order to get a minhag started? And the answer is no, you don't. A takana in the Gemara is where they make an issa for all of Klal Yisrael. So that you don't have happening today. But a community accepted something upon themselves with chachma. It's not a minhag shtus. And it was based on leaders. And again, Avram sanctions it, right? So now that community is bound by that minhag. So you don't need to base it.
So we're 100 years later. If the Rabbi would come along and say that I think we don't have to hold by this, would that be wrong?
Yeah, you couldn't do that. No. The only thing we're going to have is one day in Mi'etz Hashem, we'll have the Mikdash, we'll have the Sanhedrin back, and then the Sanhedrin is going to have a lot of work cut out for them to see which laws could possibly be undone and which laws are fixed in part of the system.
But that was created not by any...
Doesn't matter. Man, I guess it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I just a quick reference, just so you hear how serious this is. Okay, the Rambam in Hilchot Mamrim, Halach of rebels. So he says over there, just so you have a feel for it, listen to his language, just so you see how serious this is. Okay, that we don't undo minhagim. Okay, and chumras that were taken over the centuries. So he says in Perek Bet in Hilchot Beitin shegadol shedarshu b'acham min amidot kfi ma shenira beineim shadin kach v'danu din. So the Beitin gadol, they learned out from the 13, Yud Gimel midot haton and dresh behem, which we say every morning by Shmuel Omer. Beitin and another Beitin nira lo tam acher listu, and they want to undo it. So then, in that specific case, they can. One Beit can undo a lim, but an analysis from the previous Beitin, because it says Ela shofet sheyeh beyamim mahem. You go by the shofet. So the Beitin learned the halacha this way. Our next Beitin can learn differently. Beitin she gazru gezeret o takanu takana. They made a takana. V'nhigu minhag, or they set up a minhag. Upashata davan. It became an accepted minhag. Amar Beitin achen. Another Beitin wants to come along. Ubikesh levatel devarim rishon, and undo the previous one. Lakorta takana va'ota hagezera va'otom like eina yachol sheiv. So then there are certain times they can, if they are greater in chachma wisdom, they're considered to be a greater Beitin. Okay. In other words, they cannot. Aval batil hatam, even if the tam doesn't apply anymore, it doesn't matter. They can't just undo it. And then he goes into a lot of details about what kind of things can be undone, what kind of things cannot be undone. There's a whole system. It's a fascinating parak. Parak Bet, it's in Sefer Shoft, in the last Sefer of the Rambam. Parak Bet and Hechom Mamrim, where he goes through the halachot of how something can be undone. But it has to be a serious process. So on what can be undone and how it could be undone. Not everything can be undone. The Targum mitzvahs, obviously, but even some halachot and some minhagim or practices. So it's a case by case. It's a fascinating chapter 2 in Malachim. Okay? So kashering for Pesach, as Felicia mentioned, we do kasher for Pesach, and once we kasher for Pesach, you could switch it. And the reason for these leniencies is because the whole idea is you just don't want it to become like a daily kind of thing, back, forth. Okay? But in these kind of situations, you can do a Pesach, and we're not afraid. It's still going to protect the minhag. Kashering a treif kli, something which is treif, so it was dairy. And then you ended up by accident treifing it up. So once it's treif, you can now kasher and do what you want with it. Obviously, it has to be kind of a kli. That all these kalim have to be things that could be kashered. Kashering after a year of non-use, some are makil like that as well. So don't forget that people always ask me, I inherited from my great-grandmother china and it was treif and it hasn't been used in 500 years. So usually that's not a heter. It's not a heter. We don't just say, well, it was 12 months and then you're fine. There is, not like there's no sheet like that, but we don't just rely on that. You need a lot of other factors involved as well. But regarding this, which to begin with is a big stringency, so it wasn't used for years. Some poskim are lenient; they could go ahead and just mix it back. And if it wasn't, it was used to meat for 20 years. It was meat. It's been sitting around in the machsan, in the storage room, and now you just say, no, I think I can use this pot. I'm going to use it for dairy. Okay, so those are lenient for that as well. Kashering in case of safek. Okay, so the be'er Moshe, or kashering by a new owner. So if it's a safek, I don't even know if this is meat or dairy. I don't remember. But I want to use for dairy now. So it's a safek. Now we call this a safek. You have a safek deoraita. Safek deoraita means a biblical kind of a doubt on a biblical issue. Safek drabanan is a safek, a doubt on a rabbinic issue. And then you have a safek on a minhag. So this is a safek, there's a minhag here, not to take the meat and move to dairy, not to switch it to meat. But over here, I don't know if I even have the minhag. So it's a safek, a doubt on a minhag. We're lenient. Obviously, you want to wait till after 24 hours because you don't want to take a chance that it was just used for meat and now you can use it for dairy. So you wait 24 hours and then you kasher it and that's it. Okay? And then finally, kashering by a new owner. Okay? Someone gives someone the kli, they use it, they don't need it anymore, and they give it to someone else and they always use it as meat, but you want to use it as dairy. So you're switching back and forth. So the Be'er Moshe, a wonderful post that passed away. That I think right when I made Aliyah. If I'm not mistaken, I might have even been at his funeral. I just spade him eulogies for him in Borough Park. A wonderful posting in Borough Park. Passed away probably 2000 or so, 2001 maybe, early in the year. And he writes, Nishalti, this is in Be'er Moshe Gimel, Siman chapter Kuf Hey, Nishalti Harbei Pamim. I guess it happened a lot. Misha Mekel, I don't think it happens in our society, but 50, 60 years, I guess. It was a poor society, and people would have a kli, and they would give it over to someone else when they didn't need it anymore. And it was passed on. This is the throwaway society. But once upon a time, people were a little bit more careful with their money. Misha Mekabel b'matana kelim yikarim. They get nice kelim, nice pots and stuff like that. Shekvash tamshu behen. V'hanonim hishtamshu behen l'basa. And the givers used it for meat. Hamakabel matana. Those who receive it, they want to use it for dairy. Hashati pashul lahatir. He says, no, that's fine. Yes, I know the Magen Avraham who's stringent, but it's your kli. You're going back and forth. You didn't want it. It's his kli, and now it becomes yours, a new kli. You can go ahead and determine what you want to use it. He says, that's too much. So that's fine. Does that make sense? It makes plenty of sense. But you need him to tell us. It can't be us using our, quote, comments. Yeah, it makes sense. If it does, you need a postage just to say the minhag doesn't go that far. Okay? And that's what we do. So in such a case, you could do that. And he mentions the Pesach heter as well. The wild case, just to show how powerful the minhag is, About 25 years ago, I remember there was a restaurant in the Five Towns. There was a dairy restaurant. And they wanted to switch it to meat. So I think there's room, if a new owner takes over, the Be'er Moshe would say what? Of course he could switch it. I heard in the name of Rav David that, you know what he paskined for the restaurant in the Five Towns? I was shocked. So I can't say 100% this is true. I could call Rav David. And I asked Rav David Feinstein, Rav Moshe's son. You know what he said to do? Anyone want to guess? It was wild. I was shocked. He said, the minhag is not to go meet the dairy. I guess he doesn't hold by that leniency of the Be'er Moshe. That's only when it's your kli. Or maybe the owner just changed meat to dairy, but it wasn't a new owner. So maybe he does hold that a new owner could switch. But it could be the owner just decided it could be more profitable to switch from a dairy to meat restaurant. And Rav David said, you can't. And to buy new ovens, forget it. It was astronomical. Industrial ovens. So you know what he said to do? You want to be creative?
Sell it to somebody else and then...
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. He said, trafe it up. So like, what? So one rabbi I heard say, like, what? The minhag is that far? That a one-time switch, we won't kosher it? But you're going to rather put some treif oil or something and then kosher it? So, but if that's true, and I'm pretty sure I heard from a reliable source, I could call Rav David up, but he answers his phone. But if that's true, it's not crazy. I think it shows the power of minhag, and that's how Rav David Feinstein, a gadol in America, he's one of the leading poskim in America. If this is a true quote, which I'm assuming it is, then it just shows there's a minhag in Israel. We don't go meat to dairy to meat. You have those leniencies that the poskim mentioned, as you mentioned the Pesach one and some other one, that he is not in the category of the leniency. And assuming it was the same owner, so what's the heter? You have a meat restaurant, who says that restaurants we don't have the minhag? Does the Magen Avram, who brought this minhag down, say, oh, it doesn't apply to restaurants? So he could give you svaras, and he didn't want it. He didn't want it. So it's a fascinating idea. But it really shows the power of minhagim. We don't play around with minhagim. We cannot be flippant. We have to take it seriously. We cannot be cavalier. It's just a minhag. It's a minhag. It is a halachic responsibility that we have, and we perpetuate the system that way. And the reason halacha is going strong in 2017, Tafshin Ayin, is because we are makbid, we're careful about every doraita, we're careful about every rabbinic law, and we're careful about every minhag. And we're guided by the poskim.
See, the Magen Avram would be very upset about this idea, though, because then somebody can say, okay, I want to switch back and forth every day or every 2 days. I want to switch back and forth between meat and dairy with my own pots and pans. So what I'm going to do is each time, I'll just trafe them up and switch them back and forth.
Yeah, but I guess people probably be afraid and nervous to start doing that, you know what I mean?
The loophole.
It is a loophole, but, probably not so many people are going to be comfortable doing that. Just get freaked out. So probably he would say it's like a...
soft thing, it's okay.
Yeah, one-off thing. It's like a type of thing, very often we have the gzeir. They didn't make a gzeir on some far-fetched case. They're just not, so they found a way out. But the bottom is, there's a lot of, quote, leniencies here, but it's fine, because the minhag was just not to go back, forth. And you have the 12-month case, you have the Pesach case, but it's not going to affect the whole minhag, okay? And then finally, you have kashering new kalim. So this should be an easy thing to research today, okay? The concern for trade, when you buy some new kli from the supermarket, from the store, so you have to worry that it was used. There were some oils that were put on it. So trefa was used in the process. And that's why if you go to the kupashotz.com has in Ayalon Park before Pesach, it's crazy service that they get.
The new and the old.
So if you look there, the whole service is free. It's an unbelievable chesed. It really is a beautiful chesed. And if you go, you'll see new kalim that they offered a kasher new kalim. What's that about? Kasher new kalim. I didn't use it for anything yet. So the fear is that some say that maybe they use some kind of oils in the processing of it, and therefore treif oils from animal derivatives. So listen to this. Tzitz Eliezer, one of the giant poskim, just passed away, last 10, 15 years. In Yud Bet, in volume 12, Nun He 55, Kli aluminim ukedome, shesachim otam b'shat asiyatam b'shuman chazir. That's what was done. This is 50 years ago. They actually smeared it. They smeared some kind of treif oil. Oh, itzrichem hechsher. Does it need a hechsher? So here goes the whole discussion. Lefi ani yadati demikara dedina yesh lahat tekelim. I feel beli kol hagal shehu. I feel misha rotze lahat lahaver atzmo. You want to be machmir, fine. The sagi bi'uroi. So you don't have to put it into hot boiling oil. You just pour hot boiling oil on. It's all to find the big pot, and then you have to boil it with the water, but then fit this other one in it. It's not always so simple. So he says that there is a few different factors to be lenient. Okay, one is that this oil that they're putting on, the kalim, they take fresh oil from some treif source and they put it on. I don't know what even did for the kalim. I'm not sure of the mitzias of the mechanics, what it was used for. What, they take fresh, good oil and that's what they're putting on? No, the oil was mixed with some other kinds of liquids and somehow this helped process the kli as they made it. But those other things and the other ingredients were what? Edible, good edible foods and liquids? He says no. So he writes, Rati b'shem minchas Yitzchak, Latir mitam shu pog me'ino roy lemachal adam. It's not even edible at the point that they're using in the kalim. Heimi mekodem ve'in aidei taruv v'gam mitam bittul. And it's a small, if they had this treif stuff in the mixture that was used to process the kalim, it was a small amount. It was pogum. Okay? And therefore he says it's fine. And those want to be machmir, can be machmir. This should be a very easy thing to ascertain with Google today, just to find out. Are any kalim, any factories today that process their pots and pans with these treif oils? It used to be like a foreign thing. You do research and send letters into companies to find out. Imagine you could Google this. If anyone could find out. It doesn't sound like a hard thing to find out. Do any companies use animal derivatives to process their pots and pans in the factory? It doesn't sound like a hard thing. I'd be surprised, but you never know. But even if it's true, you have great poskim more lenient. But those in the kupashal staka kashrut, they want to be machmer and just not mad people. And that's fine. Yeah.
Several years ago, we were buying a toaster oven for Pesach, and there was the issue of, they say some companies do some testing of some of their models with actual bread in there.
Wow. Really? That's amazing. Really? They could do that? Could put like treif and then sell it as new? I mean, you're saying they test their product and then they sell it? Wow. So once again, these things, it's a pretty transparent society. Yeah. Well, not so transparent. So it depends what that word means. But it's easier to find things out than it was years ago. So if anyone can look that up, it doesn't sound like a hard thing. Doesn't sound like a hard thing to find out, right? Okay. So that's point 3A and B, the reason that many are lenient. And then 4, Tevilat Kalim. That's the next topic. Okay, many say it's midoraita. There are different opinions on it, whether it's a mitzvah from the Torah. It seems clear from the battle with Midian. It seems from the psukim that we had to kasher the kalim we got from them and do tefillah. Some say no, it's not. And the Gemara learns it out. It was an asmachta. So different opinions whether it's from the Torah or not, but it doesn't make a difference for us. Halacha is halacha. There's some difference might be. What about a safek, a questionable case? So that's something to look into. Hotels, we mentioned 3 weeks ago in the Shiur that there are those that say only when I have it for my personal use, when I buy it for my business, my hotel, my restaurant, then those kalim don't have to be toveld. And some rabbanuts rely on that leniency. Some do not. As I said, someone went away to Netanya a week ago to a rabbanut hotel, and they asked me to look into it. And I assume for sure he's going to tell me that the pots and pans and all the new glass and silver that were not tova. He said, no, I wouldn't like to tell him. So I'm insulted by my question. I'm so happy. He's like, no, of course I tova everything. Like, what do you think? No, I said someone leaning. He said, yeah, someone leaning, but I'm not. He'd tell you it was great. He told me to take this job seriously, which is what I almost always find when I call mashgichim up. So a bracha, yes.
Does one have to check this up? I'm not talking about even if you're going to a restaurant. If I'm eating at someone's house or someone's going to lend me pots and pans.
Well, someone's house is trickier than the restaurant because someone's house, he doesn't have a leniency. He bought it for his personal use.
Yeah, but you actually
Well, just like you're trusting him for kashrut, you're trusting him for he keeps his other halachas. Unless you know that the guy knows nothing about tefillas kelim, then you have to talk to him about that. Yeah, but we assume that all of us in the room know what tefillas kelim is. 50 years ago, no one knew in some of the more modern society, communities. Now, Baruch Hashem, it's a known thing, so we don't need to ask each other. Eidachad, we assume he knows halachas and he's keeping it. Do you hear what I'm saying? Okay, and then there's the bracha, aluminum pans. We'll talk about next time. That if you want to reuse these, first of all, do you need that in the first place? Glass bottles that a one-time use, a Coke bottle. Now you're going to keep using it again, and electric. Those are fun topics. So we'll pick that up next time. I think maybe it's really up to the kahila. If we want to keep going, have one more shiur, take a break, and then pick up again. We certainly don't want to just keep going and then die out. We want to have the shiur be a continuous kind of shiur, but I'm really fine. So if everyone wants to let me know after tomorrow, send emails, how you want to continue. We'll certainly continue next week, one more week, and then it's really up to kids if we want to keep going or not. Take a little break, summer. I'm fine either way. Everyone should have a wonderful evening.